He won a stakes race on Preakness Day, but can he win the Belmont? Let's talk about Crudo. Hi everyone, Matthew DeSantis here with NYRA Bets, here with another Belmont Stakes contender spotlight preview, and this one is on Todd Pletcher's entry, Crudo, who was a late decision to be entered into the Belmont Stakes, ultimately drew into the field and is 15-1 on the morning line. We're going to talk about this very intriguing runner here in a moment, but before we do, I want to encourage you to press that like button and subscribe to NYRA Bets YouTube today. Subscribing is entirely free of cost, just notifies you when new videos drop on the channel, whether those are race previews, full card analyses, handicapping tutorials, and so much more. We're your one-stop shop for everything in the sport of horse racing, whether it's the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival, Saratoga, the Breeders' Cup, and beyond. All right. Well, listen, folks, these contender spotlight series, they're starting to get closer to an end because, A, we know who the field is, B, we're getting further into the week, but one of the late entries was Crudo. This was a horse that, if you listen to Kaylee Shapiro and I, and on one of our early pace discussions, we talked about some horses that might just show up that weren't in the original six that we knew were going to be coming to the Belmont Stakes. And we said, one of these horses is going to come. We threw out some names like East Avenue, ultimately going to the Matt Win. We threw out some other names. Certainly a horse like Garamond looks like he's going to the Pegasus and Monmouth. But we mentioned Crudo as well. And Crudo coming off that very impressive victory in the Sir Barton, which was on the Preakness Day undercard, where he wired the field and did so with ease that day, winning by over 7 lengths. He's an impressive horse for sure. The question is, he's going to have to take a big step up here to win the Belmont Stakes, but it changes the dynamics of the race significantly with him in it. So let's talk a little bit about Crudo and learn a little bit more about this really intriguing runner trained by Todd Pletcher. Now, listen, when you think the Belmont Stakes, you got to think about Todd Pletcher. He's won this race several times. And one of the things that Todd does so well is that he prepares horses to go a new distance, maybe better than anybody. I mean, Mike Maker certainly stands out as somebody who's very good at getting horses to go long, be very effective at it. Saffie Joseph Jr., actually, I think is somebody who a lot of times when you see his horses, when they perk up, it's because he's changing their distances a lot of times. He's going, let's stretch this one out a little bit longer. So you do see some trainers for that, but at a high level, nobody's better at it than Todd Pletcher. And so I really like what Pletcher's bringing to the table with this horse. Jockeyed by John Velasquez, another thing you have to like. Johnny V with this horse, a horse that's going to be up on the lead, and again, is going to be contesting that early pace of Rodriguez, but Johnny is so good at getting younger horses. And even though Crudo, listen, he's roughly the same age as everybody else, but he's relatively inexperienced compared to the rest of the field. Getting these lesser experienced horses to relax a little bit on the front end and just become a little bit more comfortable, I think is a huge benefit. So I love that. The pedigree is outstanding. It's absolutely outstanding. Sired by Justify out of a deputy minister mare. Now, why is this such a great pedigree? Well, listen, you got Justify up top, and Justify is proven to be just a brilliant sire. I mean, Aidan O'Brien said a generational sire. He believes potentially a breed-shaping sire. And if somebody like Aidan O'Brien is saying that, that carries a lot of weight. When you look at what Justify has been able to do with his offspring on the track, it's certainly impressive. But it's the fact that Crudo is the full sibling to a Japanese runner, Awesome Result. Why is that significant? Awesome Result is 8 for 9 winning in his career and has won going 1.25 miles before and is a grade 1 winner over in Japan. Awesome Result is an amazingly good horse. So again, Crudo having that pedigree that's already proven to be able to get this distance, I think is a huge plus. Now, he is very lightly raced. He broke his maiden in his second start, and he immediately stepped up and won that Sir Barton Stakes on the Preakness Day undercard. And then he finds himself in this spot. But as we will see, he is very green still in terms of those buyer speed figures being a little bit more light. That Sir Barton was the first time going 2 turns. You see, he wasn't an overwhelming sales price, $350,000. So it is a little interesting with that pedigree and the fact that Awesome Result was such a good horse in Japan. You might expect him to go for a little bit more than that. Maybe there was some vet issues. You never know. But is owned by Bobby Flay, so he's got a high-profile owner. There's another Todd Pletcher runner in this race who also has a high-profile owner in the form of Uncaged and Mike Rapoli. But we'll talk about him on another preview. But listen, he answered a lot of questions last time out, did Crudo. He switched off Lasix, he went 2 turns, and he looked great doing it. He got to the lead and extended that lead and really dominated that race. His last 2 victories have come by a combined 14.5 lengths. So he's putting people away, and he's getting stronger as the race gets on, which certainly gives you confidence that he might be able to continue to get better going 1.25 miles at the Belmont Stakes. Now, the big question is, can he rate? I think that's the big question. And I think the answer is yes, because you look at what he did in that debut at Gulfstream Park. Even though he lost and he faded, what did he do? He passed horses. That's just as important to me as the final result. He got to the lead. Yes, he faded late. Yes, he's probably not, he's probably not a horse that wants to go 22 and 45 to the opening quarter and half, and he's going to fade going 6 furlongs, and it was a debut race. And so you're willing to make some excuses there. But what he showed was he can sit behind horses and he can pass horses. So this is, I think, particularly important for the Belmont. Why? Because he draws to the outside of Rodriguez, who is, of course, the other dominant speed in the race. Rodriguez is going to be sitting coming out of the number 3 post, Crudo the number 5 post. Those 2 have outstanding early speed. Expect Rodriguez to get to the first turn and hold that inside speed position. But Crudo is going to be right there tracking, stalking him, I would imagine, in the 2 path, and is going to be in the clear, which again, I think is sometimes just as important for young horses as being on the lead. Are they in the clear? I think that's a really critical point. Crudo will be in the clear, being able to run his own race with a jockey who can get him to relax. And like I said, we've already seen him prove that he can pass horses. Now, the speed figures are light. This is where he's going to have to move forward. But I think there's reason for optimism, and I'm going to give you the example of the horse Gosger. Gosger is a very, very similar horse to Crudo, I think. In that Gosger going into the Belmont Stakes was a horse, or in the Preakness, I should say, was a horse that had just come out of winning a lesser stakes race, the Lexington, and ultimately a grade 3 race, so a little bit more than a restricted race like the Sir Barton. But still, coming out of a stakes victory, but the knock on Gosger was the speed figures looked light compared to the rest of the field and the rest of the contenders. What did we see Gosger do? He got the perfect trip sitting just off alone speed. Now, he ended up benefiting, I think, a lot from having all of the mess that happened behind him. But nevertheless, he ran a huge race that day, and we saw a significant step up in buyer speed figures for a horse that had not really shown it prior, that had kind of run the same number a couple of races in a row, that 87, 88. Then he pops for a 98, if I'm not mistaken, in that last Preakness Stakes victory. So you saw a significant improvement. I think you could see something similar with Crudo, where this is a horse that stretching out to 2 turns for the second time, going a little bit longer, and now going from 1.16 miles to 1.25 miles, so stretching out even more, but should sit that same sort of trip that Gosger sat, honestly, in the Preakness, that kind of right stalking trip off of Rodriguez. And if Rodriguez isn't good enough to seal the deal, Crudo is right there and is going to be in perfect position to pounce, and that pedigree would certainly suggest he can get the 1.25 miles. So I think we can see a big step up in speed figures from a horse like Crudo, especially at a price at 15 to 1. He's a horse that, it's hard to ignore a horse like that at that price, just because that if there's any sort of marked improvement, he could easily be a part of your trifectas, your superfectas at a significant price. So even if you don't think he's good enough to win this race, which I think there's a non-zero chance that he could win this race. I would not be stunned if Crudo won. I'd be pretty surprised, but I wouldn't if Heart of Honor won this race, I'd be a little bit more shocked. If Uncaged won this race, I'd be more shocked. So he's not the least likely horse to win this race. Now, those are the 2 horses that are higher odds than him. I'd probably be a little less surprised if Hill Road won. So, I mean, where David Aragona set the morning line makes a lot of sense in terms of just my overall opinion of these horses. But nevertheless, with Crudo, I think he could take a big step forward. I think he can pass horses. I think that he's just benefited from getting to the lead those last 2 races. I think he's only going to get better as he stretches out. And I think you could see a big marked improvement for him in his next start. So listen, I'm a big fan of this horse. I think he has a bright future. I think Todd Pletcher, certainly knows what he's doing when it comes to getting horses ready for the Belmont Stakes and getting them prepared to do the 1.25 miles. This is a lot to ask a horse to do in his 4th career start. No 2 ways about it. But the thing is, Rodriguez is going to go to the lead. Crudo is going to stalk that pace. It's not like there's anybody else pushing them. Okay. So again, yes, it's going to be a contested pace, but I still don't expect it to be a fast pace. I expect it to be a modest or at least a moderate pace. So it's not as if Crudo's in the fear of burning up on the front end, I don't think. I think he'll run pretty reasonable fractions stalking Rodriguez, but he's just going to make sure Rodriguez feels his presence the whole time. But again, Johnny's going to keep him in the clear. Like I said, I think certainly a horse like Journalism and Sovereignty and Baeza, they're going to be hard to hold off as they come running down the stretch. Hill Road, could make a big run as well. Don't want to discount that horse. So I think all of those horses certainly, obviously, warrant all the respect you want to give them. But I do think a horse like Crudo could be a little sneaky in this spot and might just be able to maybe not hold everybody off, but I think hold on for a little piece of the board. So interesting horse. I know I'm going to definitely be using this one on some of my tickets more in the vertical nature rather than in the horizontal like pick 5 sequence. But listen, it's going to be a lot of fun. So you definitely want to make sure to check out all of our content that we have up here on NYRA Bets, whether that is, like I said, race previews, full card analyses, handicapping tutorials, getting you ready for the big races, and so much more. We got a load of content on Twitter as well, so make sure to throw us a follow at NYRA Bets. You can throw me a follow at Fail the Menace, my colleague Kaylee Shapiro at Kaylee Shapiro 13. She's up here as well this week up in Saratoga. I'm currently recording this in the Albany, in a hotel, in an undisclosed hotel by the Albany airport. But nevertheless, we are thrilled to be up here in the capital region. Saratoga is a beautiful day today that I'm recording this on Tuesday. So we can't wait to see everybody out at the track this week. If you do, make sure to come by, say hi. Listen, folks, hope you had a great day. Reminding you to always make sure to subscribe to NYRA Bets, and wishing you a great and profitable day at the races. And reminding you, it's now post time.